Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Lesson 5-2, Absolute Value. This lesson is found on page 355. When we talk about absolute value, we talk about the value of a number regardless of its positive or negative sign. So, it's really the distance between a number and zero on the number line is called its absolute value. So what we mean by that is that, for example, a number like -2, let me change the color, sorry. Okay. -2 and 2 have the same absolute value. This one is 2 places away from 0, and this one is 2 places away from 0. The only difference is this one moves towards the positive side and this one's moving towards the negative side. But in terms of value and absolute value, they're both worth 2. This one's just worth 2 negative, while this one's worth 2 positives. Let's look at this example. Each mark on the number line indicates 1 yard. Draw a tree 3 yards west of the house. Draw a mailbox 3 yards east of the house. So draw a tree 3 yards west of the house, 3 yards, and they say that each one of these is a yard. Obviously, it's not proportional, right? A yard is much smaller than that. But we have 1, 2, 3, and then draw a mailbox 3 yards east of the house. So 1, 2, 3. The distance between the house and the tree is the distance between the house and the mailbox. So what we're saying is, we see here 1, 2, 3, and this way 1, 2, 3. We know that they're both equal. Even though they're both equal, they're both in opposite directions. Okay, so the tree and the mailbox are in opposite directions from the house. How does the number line above help you understand absolute value? Well, boys and girls, the house, we can pretend the house is 0. And this way we're counting 1, 2, 3 positive, and this way we're counting 1, 2, 3 towards the negative. So absolute value shows you, this diagram shows you that absolute value is the same regardless of which direction you move in. This way we move 3, and towards the east we also move 3 yards. Please copy the explanation as a key answer. The house is at 0 on the number line. The tree and the mailbox are the same distance from the house, but in different directions. For the real world link, Aaron's Jesse leaves home and walks 4 blocks west to the grocery store to buy milk, then returns home. He then walks another 4 blocks east to the post office. Compare the distance and the direction of Jesse's house and the post office from the grocery store. So here we have Jesse's home, right in the middle. We'll call that 0. And he walks 4 blocks west to the grocery store. So west he walks 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks to the grocery store. And then it says that he returns home. So he walked 4 blocks, then he returned home. And then he walked 4 blocks east to the post office. So then he walks 1, 2, 3, 4 to the post office. Compare the distance and the direction of Jesse's house and the post office from the grocery store. Okay, so here we have 4, and then he walked 4 this way. The entire difference, the absolute value of it all is 8 blocks, right? You see we have 4 this way and 4 this way, so we have 8 blocks in total. So that's our absolute value. If we wanted to compare how much you walked from here to here, is 8 blocks, or 4 blocks in opposite directions. They are both 4 blocks in opposite directions. Please write that down as a key answer. Okay, here we have a key concept. Okay, find opposite. Positive numbers such as 2 are graphed to the right or above 0 on the number line. Negative numbers such as -2 are graphed to the left below 0 or a number line. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 in opposite directions. Since 0 is not negative nor positive, 0 is its own opposite. The opposite of a number is the number itself. For example, the opposite of the opposite of 3 minus 3 is 3. Negative 2 and 2 are opposite numbers here. Okay, we have 2 and positive 2. They're both the same distance from 0, and that's all we really needed you to learn. And this is on a number line. Now, if we were using a graph, this would be our x-axis, and we could draw another line through the 0, which would make our y-axis. And this is important to know because soon we'll be graphing ordered pairs, okay, such as -2 and 2, or so on. Here we have example 1 and how to find the opposite. So find the opposite of -5. Simply remove the negative and you'll have +5, right? Or you can draw a number line and you can see that you have -5 here and +5 there. And they're both opposite because they're both the exact mirror on the other side of 0. The second method is simply just changing the symbol. Okay, you have a -5, just change the symbol to a positive, and that's your opposite. But you don't have we don't write +5 when we're writing natural numbers. We simply just write 5. And finally, find the opposite of 4. So what they're saying is find the opposite of the opposite. So what's the opposite of 4? It's -4, right? -4. Well, they're asking you to find the opposite of -4. If they tell you find the opposite, okay, of the opposite, find the opposite of the opposite. They're telling you to find the opposite of -4, okay? Because the opposite of the opposite is this one. So they want you to find the opposite of -4, which is 4. Really what we're doing is finding the opposite of the opposite. Do you see that? If you understood what we're doing, you should be able to do these two. So pause the video and find the opposite of 3 and find the opposite of -2. Pause now. So the opposite of 3 is -3. Okay? Now they want us to find the opposite of -2. Well, the opposite of -2. So we have -2. And they want us to find the opposite, which is 2, of the opposite, which will be just -2. Okay, so -2 is your answer here, and -3 is your answer there. Now we're going to learn how to write absolute value. Now remember that absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and the 0 on the number line. Okay, so we have the 0, and we have 4, but we also have -4. You see, they're both the same distance from 0. So they both have the same value. So this is the way we write absolute value. We write absolute value of 4. Now the absolute value of 4 can be 4 or -4. Do you see that? Absolute value can be either one of these. Because again, this is simply saying that it's 4 away from 0. But it doesn't say if it's negative or positive. It's just the distance of 4. It's the absolute value. So an absolute value of -4 is still 4, and absolute value of +4 is still 4. These are both the same distance from 0. Okay, for example 1, we're asking what is the absolute value of -7? Again, you don't have to worry about the negative or positive sign. We're just saying absolute 7 means it's from 0 all the way down to -7. What's the absolute value? Well, it's just 7, you see? And now we're going to add absolute values. I have 5 plus absolute value -6. We have 5 and 6. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative because we're just counting how far it is from 0. So 5 plus 6 is 11. And here I have an absolute value of 7, right? -7, which is on the negative side, but absolute value again just counts the number of places. So essentially I have 7 minus 3. Equals 4. 7 minus 3 equals 4. Let's try these. What is the absolute value of 14? How far is 14 away from 0? Well, 14. Okay, we have an absolute value of -9 plus absolute value of 3. How far is this from 0? It's 9. And how far is this absolute 3 from 0? 3. So really all we're doing is 9 plus 3 equals 11. I'm sorry. 12. What am I doing? Equals 12. Okay, and absolute value of -8 minus absolute value. Now this is not parentheses, boys and girls. Okay, keep in mind we're not doing minus, which becomes plus. Please don't confuse absolute value with parentheses. These are not parentheses. Right here, they're absolute value. So essentially all we're saying is 8 minus 2. That's really all we're saying, which equals 6. Okay, because this is 8 values and this one's 2 values away from 0, and we're subtracting them. And here's one way absolute value applies to the real world. A seagull, it's a bird that lives by the sea, right? A seagull is flying 25 feet above sea level. Navia is diving 15 feet below sea level. What is the distance between Navia and the seagull? So we have the water, the seagull, and Navia, okay? And we want to know the distance between them. Remember that the water is our zero. The waters are zero. And the seagull is all the way up 25 feet. Okay, 25 feet positive. And Navia is 15 feet negative, right? But it's absolute value. These are absolute value because we just want to know how far they're from zero. So really what I have here is 25, right? I have an absolute value of 25 plus an absolute value of another 15 going down, because we want to know how much is this plus this. What's the whole difference from there to there? Plus negative 15. Okay, an absolute value of negative 15, which is really just 25 plus 15, because they're both just absolute value, and when equals 40. And there's your therefore statement. So the total distance is 40 feet. Here's the guided practice. Please leave it for class so we can work on it together. But please complete the independent practice all on your own. Make sure that you are working with the absolute value. Remember that the negative or positive do not matter when it's absolute value. If you find that the negative is on the outside of the absolute value, then it does matter, okay? This is a value of 3, but it's going to be negative 3 because the negative sign is outside the absolute value. Got it? All right, everybody. I'll see you in class.